Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask me a question about IGF-1, and it made me realize I should probably cover this topic again because I've had a few different questions come up about it, and even though I did a really long video on this probably 5 months ago, a lot of questions are being asked, and I think it's a pretty important topic, so let me relax, get my places in, put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing for all my gaming friends, and do a little bit of crafting here. If I can skill up while we talk about IGF-1. All right, IGF-1, a lot of confusion out there, and it's because there's so much misinformation and there's so much confusion about what this naturally occurring hormone in the body does because a lot of bodybuilders inject it directly. It's easily available and it's quasi-legal, so that's where the complication comes in because it can be legally purchased in like the United States and other places, and I think Canada, the UK. I know the UK and the United States. For research purposes and stuff, it's people buy it and use it, and they've been doing so for a really long time. Different variations of it have been used by bodybuilders, but we need to understand what it does and doesn't do in the body a little bit better as far as the way that the origin that brings it into the body is tremendously important in determining what it actually does. And there's a massive difference between people who are putting it into their body exogenously, that means with a needle, versus their body producing it in the muscle cell. You really want it produced in the muscle cell ideally. That's where it's really beneficial for you. So let's talk about that for a minute. All right, we know from the studies that have been done on this and the research that's been put into it, and when I say we, everyone, because anyone can open a book and read this, so we all know this if we're educated, that resistance training, exercise produces IGF-1 and different variants of IGF-1 in the muscle cell directly. Like we noticed, particularly mechanogrowth factor, which is an IGF-1 variant, which is also a drug people use now. Yeah, that's how it works. Welcome to the real world. Pretty much anything the body produces naturally that seems to help in any way with muscle growth or recovery, somebody out there is going to find a way to make it and put much larger amounts of it into the body. That's the nature of it, guys. That's the real world. And so yeah, the body produces a lot of different types of IGF-1 variants in the muscle, but mechanogrowth factor is the type it seems to produce a lot of immediately after training. All right, and that seems to be one of the hormonal responses to training that actually does matter. Things like testosterone, growth hormone, all of that response to training has never been found. The amount produced doesn't seem to affect growth, but those IGF-1 variants sure do. And the difference there is that when you weight train, you're not producing them through the whole body. They're being produced by the nuclei of the muscle cell, and they go into the muscle cell, and a little bit leaks out in the bloodstream, not very much. It tends to stay pretty localized. All right, that means that it's acting upon the muscle tissue around there, and it's also helping pull in extra nutrients and things into the muscle and helping restructure the muscle. It helps build the muscle tissue, make it grow, basically. All right, well, it turns out anabolic steroids do the same thing, the exact same thing. In particular, even more so, it gets even a larger response when they're mixed with human growth hormone. But basically, any androgen, when it binds to the androgen receptor in the muscle cells, it makes the nuclei of those muscle cells produce IGF-1. Very large amounts. In fact, it can produce much larger amounts than are produced from training sometimes. But the difference is it continues to produce it the entire time that's in the system. Sometimes it keeps producing it even after it's out of your system for a little bit. Sometimes, a few hours maybe sometimes, because some of them don't stay in your system all day. Well, some of that gets out into the bloodstream, but most of it doesn't. The majority of it stays in the muscle cells, and it causes them to grow. And a little bit leaks into the bloodstream and gets to other tissues that are carried through your blood to wherever it's going. And the rate that those tissues get it at depends on, how far it travels, obviously through the bloodstream, but how insulin sensitive they are. The insulin sensitivity of it is what attracts IGF-1. It works in some ways. I'm going to leave that alone. That's going to get too complicated for discussion. We're just going to drop that. Basically, other tissues pick it up based on how sensitive they are to it. at different rates, and it's going to just kind of spread a little bit. But it's very, very little comes out of the muscle tissue itself, because the muscle tissue grabs it up because it's immediately available internally. It grabs it up, and not a lot of it gets out. And that makes that muscle cell grow. It grows without even training, and anyone who thinks that anabolics don't make you grow without training has never looked at the research. They blow training out of the water, even for couch potatoes. Proven, heavily supported by the research. So that being said, that's what happens. Well, people come to a misconception. They assume that if that works great, will work even better is if I just inject the IGF-1, because IGF-1 is the primary pathway through which anabolics and testosterone cause muscle tissue to grow. And if that's the primary method by which they cause muscles to grow, well, we just need more of that. Problem solved. Well, it's not that simple, unfortunately, because once it goes into the bloodstream, if someone just injects it into their body, it goes everywhere. Not just the muscle cells, but it is available to every tissue and cell in your body while it's in the bloodstream. It gets distributed a lot more evenly. Well, there is another type of tissue that loves IGF-1 and loves insulin too. Anyone care to take a guess what that is? Cancer cells. So if you have any little tiny cancer forming, and keep in mind, most of us get cancer. A lot of you may have had cancer 2 or 3, 4, 5 times already and not known it because it didn't grow very far. Like you might have had a little tiny malignant tumor the size of a little pinhead, a needle point, that started in your body, but your body fought it off. Okay, you may have had several of them already. Some of you younger guys may have already had several of them, not even realize it, but your body fought them off before they became detectable, and you never got cancer. But the cells still tend to start. They're basically mutations that happen. Well, they love IGF-1. IGF-1 is basically steroids for cancer cells. I mean, you want to take a cancer cell and make it explode to 20 times larger inside of a week or two? Give it some IGF-1. That'll do it. See where this is going? How about your organs? Organs can be affected by IGF-1 also. So you're putting enough into your body to make your muscles grow. Well, you're also putting enough into your body to make cancer cells grow really fast. You're also putting enough into your body that some of your organs might latch onto some of it and grow a little bit too. This is a problem. This is one reason I don't condone IGF-1. And I'm not a fan of it. I've seen a first-hand case, and I have one anecdote of this that I saw in person. And so this is one of the reasons I tell even bodybuilders, don't take that stuff. I watched a guy I knew many, many years ago. I don't even remember, maybe it might have been 2001, 2002, I'm not even sure. I couldn't even tell you the exact year, way back then. Who was what you guys would call a really aesthetic guy. He walked around about 165, really lean, visible abs, six-pack year-round. Always vascular and everything, but he loved Anavar. Anavar was his drug. I mean, he didn't use large amounts of it, but he liked it, and it worked for him. It kept him maintaining that little chiseled aesthetic look that he had, and he would come on and off of it, like 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off, stuff like that. And then one day he decided to try IGF-1 RL3. And he ran it for 3 months, and he was talking about, just amazing pumps he was getting on it. He combined it with his Anavar for his little blast. And he ended up gaining about 8 solid pounds of muscle and looking leaner, right? And it was a lot more vascular and hard and everything else. So he went from like 165 up to about 173, but lost fat. Totally changed his look, but it didn't change his look for the better. Because at the end, this guy who normally had this really tiny waistline and flat stomach, his upper abs and his abs all protruded out about 4 or 5 inches more than they used to, about 4 inches further out. And he had little top abs stuck out past his sternum and like all the way out as far as his nipples went. And he did notice that, and he was bitching about it. And I saw the before and after too, because he was showing some of us. And yeah, he was concerned about that. And to my knowledge, because I don't think I spoke to him more than about a few more months after that, I lost touch with the guy, but it didn't seem to go away. Is it possible organ growth? Yeah, I think possibly so, but it did mess up his look, and it might have been permanent. And there's also health risks to that. So you got that there, but the other big concern is the cancer. I mean, you're putting something into your body, if you're doing this, that is going to potentially give you cancer. If you have any little cancer cells already started that your body is going to fight off, you're giving them a chance to grow. You're feeding them. It's such a horrible idea. Not only does it ruin physiques from what I've seen, yeah, does it make you grow faster? Absolutely. When guys stack it with their anabolics into their stack, does it make a big difference? Yeah, they grow faster, but I mean, how big are you guys really trying to get? I mean, it's a drug for guys who want to be freakish size, who don't care about their look and looking good anymore. They want to look like a monster, so they're on massive cocktails of drugs. For everyone else who actually cares about their health, and even some of you guys who care about your look, this is not something you should be putting into your body. I'm not a fan. I don't advocate its use. I've just seen it go wrong, and I can see from the biochemistry that this is extremely dangerous practice. I just can't support it. And the difference, you've got to understand, there's an enormous difference between where the IGF-1 goes that your muscles produce, either naturally from exercise or unnaturally even from anabolic substances, androgens being put into the body. What happens with that IGF-1 is totally different from IGF-1 that people put into their bodies externally. You're comparing apples to oranges here. When it's produced by the muscles, it is an amazing muscle building, muscle repairing, strength building substance. When your body is actually making it, it is a fantastic thing. It's virtually responsible for all the muscle that you guys have on your body, whether you're natural or enhanced by steroids. IGF-1 is what built your muscle tissue. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But when you go just putting it into your body, you're taking enormous risks that are just, in my opinion, absolutely not worth it. And so, yeah, that's why when people ask me about it, I say, no, don't do that. I'm not saying it arbitrarily. I'm saying it because I legitimately believe this is something that in the long term is dangerous to you. It's not something that's going to hurt you in the short term. I think it's a substance that is running an enormous risk to you of causing you multiple different types of problems that you really don't need. There's so many better ways to reach the goal than using this that I just don't advocate it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.